Hey there, this is Pod and Deliver. And you know what tonight is? It's movie night. And that's Mr. Chips, or actually Goodbye, Mr. Chips. And this is one of my all-time favorite movies, 1939 version. Don't watch that 1969 version, because that's the musical, unless you really like that type of thing. Messing with the classics. Don't mess with the classics. But stars Robert Donay and Greer Garson. And this is a wonderful year for film. If you haven't seen Gone with the Wind or movies like Stagecoach or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, this is the same year with all those Wuthering Heights, the same year. And Robert Donay actually wins the Best Actor. He beats out Jimmy Stewart. He beats out Laurence Olivier. He beats out Clark Gable for Gone with the Wind. That's the type of movie this is. And I think that's the type of performance that Robert Donay does here with this film. You see a young teacher working at a boarding school, basically, an old-time school that's been, I think, for centuries. And you see him working with kids throughout decades, like 60 years. And in that time, you see him grow as a teacher. He starts off as a young 22-year-old teacher, not really sure of himself. Then he becomes kind of stiff, and then you see him grow. And then the key part of the film is when he gets married and where he grows as a teacher. And then he learns, even from her, and how to kind of just loosen up and to use and we'll talk about it, authenticity, some of those strategies he starts putting to good use in the classroom. But Ruben, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I could watch this movie again. I love this movie.
I would not be able to watch this again.
Maybe you saw the 1969 version.
Okay. I saw the 1939 version, but the you mentioned Mr. Holland's opus as being sappy.
Yes.
This is sappy as can be. They laid this on so thick and so sweet. You can pour it on your pancakes or throw it as stucco on your wall. It is just way overboard in terms of painting this teacher as if he's a great mentor, great sage, and he's none of those things, at least as not depicted in the film. I feel very guilty about not liking it because it's well loved. I had never seen it before, and I didn't realize it. He won the Academy Award for
Best
that
actor.
That was it. I don't think it belongs in the category of films you put it in. And I feel guilty not liking it because his heart is in the right place. It's a very earnest film, but what is it about? This old teacher who refuses to quit. Why? Maybe a runaway ego? Because he's not demonstrating greatness. He's very eccentric, but in the sense of he's losing his mind, maybe, or he's losing his touch. I don't know if he's losing his mind, but he's losing his touch because he's so old. He should have retired. I know they were trying to depict these admins as, they don't realize what a great teacher he is. Where is he a great teacher? There's a running joke throughout the film that he's taught forever, meaning that he's taught this kid Callie, and then he had a kid, and he taught that kid, and then he had a kid. So that's the joke, that he's taught them all. So what? So he longevity. That's what he's good at. So I don't understand the power in his teaching. It's never demonstrated. I'd be very curious. I'd be very curious to hear about the teaching strategies.
I have a couple.
But man, people are not going to appreciate that you liked it and recommended it because
I don't think so. I think people are going to love this
because they're going to walk away not like it is badly dated. So now you mentioned Stagecoach and Citizen Kane and these films that came out in '39. You can watch Laurel and Hardy was making shorts. You can watch any of those films you mentioned and Laurel and Hardy and not feel as if it's dated. You can enjoy those films. You can't with this one. There's a lot of dated aspects to the film.
Would it help if we colorized it, Ruben? Would that help?
No, I'm not talking about the color. I'm talking about the jokes. I'm talking about the flavor. He's caning the kids. Sure, you and I will be able to organize our kids if we had a cane. We could cane them. Instill fear in them. People are going to
we saw the different movie.
People are going to be disconnected by that. And then I'll be quiet and let you talk about strategies. But
I'm ready.
there's a scene which lost me, and it was very unsuccessful. The movie was okay until, I don't think this is a bad film. It's just not worthwhile.
Nominated for Best Picture.
The when he marries Greer Garson, and they're up in the Alps or something. It was, to me, the most unsuccessful part
Very
of the
romantic.
film. Really?
Romantic.
And when
she
comes back, his wife, and the other teachers, as she walks through the door, as he introduces her, they ogle her, and they say things very inappropriate. This movie, if it were remade today, it would be a very different thing going on. And then the students start ogling her.
Yeah, I mean, the time period was like the 1890s. The movie was made in 1939. I think we have to, you know, we don't want to cancel this movie, Ruben. Is that what you're trying to do here?
So it's Come on now. I have another thing to say about it, but go. What were you going to say?
I want to share about the authenticity piece of it. I mean, I felt there were a couple of things that happened. I said, wow, this is great. He right away goes in, and the kids are having a heyday. He's a young 22-year-old teacher. When I started, it was difficult to get kids in order as well. And he basically, when he said something, he knew that the kids would listen because he did something to them that they will never forget. And it was, they were fooling around on one of his first days. It made him look pretty bad in front of the administration. And so he said, you know what, I'm going to get back to these kids, and they're going to have a consequence. And the consequence is they can't go to that cricket match that they all want to go to. And so there they are, they're in their seats as a cricket game is being played, and they can't go outside. And the whole purpose of that is that he felt bad about it. He said, oh shoot, I didn't know that there was a cricket game, but he stayed with it. And you know, it reminds me as a teacher, it's a good strategy that, you know, when you have your rules, when you have the things that the kids are expected, you know, don't go back on anything unless obviously you feel like, hey, you know, it's gonna really hurt the kid, or it's not.
So don't go back on your word.
Don't go back on your word. I think that was a good piece. And
do you know how quickly? Do you know what minute that scene was? What minute into the movie that scene was?
Well, it's the first time we got in the classroom. I mean, I think that was probably minute 20 around there. I mean, it was pretty soon.
It was very quick.
Yeah.
And then after that,
yeah,
I couldn't even tell you he was a teacher. He was running around the school, scolding boys.
Right. So that was the whole purpose of. That's what I'm saying. So when the wife came in, she pretty softened him up, and she saw the good in him. What a romantic film! You guys got to see this. And then as she comes to the school and she works with him at this boarding school, she lets him know, hey, you have some humor. Why don't you joke around the class? Say a joke. And he does that. And that's another strategy he brings into the classroom with the help of his wife, who saw good in him.
Very dated jokes.
And
not funny.
I mean, we're talking 1930. Let's give a little mercy on the boy.
No, that was my point.
And the point was the time period was about 1890.
That's the point I'm making, is that these other movies you mentioned are not dated like that. That's exactly my point, is that if you watch Laurel and Hardy, their jokes are not some of it will feel dated, but you can watch Laurel and Hardy.
I don't think it mattered what the joke was.
You can watch Laurel and Hardy today, and it doesn't feel dated.
I don't think it mattered.
These jokes, you're not going to get.
It didn't matter what the jokes were.
It
was the purpose.
This film.
And the purpose was to connect with the kids.
So let's talk about.
He connected with the kids with that joke. That's all I'm saying. I don't care what the joke was.
You have to, though, because there's so much of it. You have to feel it. It's going to take the audience out because it's dated. So let's talk about 1939. I will say this: it's not necessarily praise for the film, but I at least appreciate the history involved. The year 1939 is a very explosive year in history, and it's in the film. It documents how a lot of these kids were sent off to World War I. So of course it's set prior to 1939, but it made me reflect on these kids who are so excited about their duty to the country, which I respect. However, it make you reflect on the disaster World War I was going to turn out to be, and you watch these mentors and teachers not saying anything, just saying, oh, you know, let me talk about this student who died. They're not challenging what in any way.
I think they're challenging. I disagree with that.
Which if the one thing I will say, nothing political, I will say though, if we go to war, I think it's my duty to speak up and to talk about challenging the idea of going to war and not even bringing it up. That's strange to me.
Well, I think I disagree. And one aspect is that what they did was it's a British way, I think. You go in as an example. These teachers, these professors, these headmasters, because he always wanted to be a headmaster, and he was able to during World War One, right, when they all went to war. And he even had to talk with a young man who he caned. I know at that time that caning was okay to do, and the way he did it was, I think, the kid with his spirit wasn't broken, but they had a conversation after he was caned regarding, hey, you know what, these teachers, these professors, they're going out and they're fighting this war, and you know what, if these older ones could do it, they would. And the young man didn't know that. The ones that were left behind, the substitutes. And so I think that no, I think by their actions they were speaking louder than they could do by the words.
I think
in this situation,
I think it's up to them to at least challenge the status quo, to ask questions of their leaders. Is there a different way we could go about this than to go to war? It's asking questions, and there's none of that here. It's we sent off our kids to die. Sorry, that's how it rolls. That's how it goes. Let me read the names of the deceased, which is important. You need to read the names of the deceased and sacrifice, but just to let this war go and not challenge it, I had a hard time watching that, especially what would result in it's fascinating. So this part I like the connection to history, and it made me reflect on World War I and how the ending of World War I and the beginning of World War II is 20 short years.
20 years.
And it's the same time of which around 9/11 happened to this point, right?
Oh.
It's such a short period of time and so much devastation that it's hard to watch something like that and just put a smiley face on it. I don't recommend the film. I saw very little strategies. I did like the scene that you mentioned, but it's very early in the film, and after that, I'm hungering for something more substantial, and they didn't deliver. Watch Citizen Kane, Laurel and Hardy, Stage. There's a dozen. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Please don't put it in that same category.
Oh, it's just
not
as good or better.
It's not even close.
I think you have to go watch it because I disagree with Ruben.
Leave a comment in the video if you saw the film and if you liked it, or a better film than that, which are many, that was released in 1939. Wizard of Oz. You're putting it in the Wizard of Oz category.
Yes, it's awesome. Go watch that film. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.